Okay, so welcome to our latest webinar in the Essex Cricket in the Community series. This one's on the top end of the pathway. We're going to have a look at, just give you a bit of an update on how the Essex Women did this year. We're going to catch up with the new, for those just coming in, if you're right to mute, please. So we'll give you an update on how the Sunrisers did this season. A little bit around coaching at the upper levels of the pathway, and a bit around the EPP and academy groups from the Sunrisers as well. So joining us today, we've got Kelly Castle, who's the Essex Women's First 11 captain and player for the Sunrisers, and also Danny Warren, who is the regional director for the Sunrisers too. So we're just going to have a chat with those guys, and then, like I said, send your questions in as we go along, and at the end we'll try and get through some of those. So, starting with you, Kelly. I know that the women's season was disrupted, as was most people's through COVID. How did the women kind of keep engaged through that and prep for the season?
Yeah, so we had a few team challenges. Obviously, we were, I think we ended up having some like Zoom quizzes in the end. I think a lot of people, that was the trend, ended up doing that. But in terms of like actual team and sort of keeping ourselves as active as we could, we had a couple of running challenges against sort of our local counties, London Championship stuff. So we had one which was our 2K time trial, which is very hard. It's harder than it sounds, of running 2 kilometres as fast as you can. But that was really competitive. And that one we as well tried to get a celebrity, which we got Nasser Hussain, who ran, I think it says on there, 8 minutes 33, which is a pretty decent time to run with that. So we had that, and then our other one as well was just running as far as possible in 30 minutes. So yeah, it was quite competitive, and it was good to sort of keep involved with the other counties as well, because obviously where we're not playing against them, it was just nice to actually have some type of competitiveness, because the girls are very competitive. So that's how we sort of tried to keep our brains and try to keep active as we could.
Excellent. So leading on from that, the Essex, you mentioned the London Championship. That's what Essex played in alongside Middlesex, Kent and Surrey. How did that go this year? What did you play? And what players impressed you from the Essex team?
Yeah, so we played, as you said, we played fifth. I can't remember it wasn't even that long ago, but it feels like a really long season from what's happened this year. But yeah, we had our London Championship. It was 50 over games, which I think sort of it was a really good time to focus on sort of like the development of the team and sort of bring in some new people and new players. We were quite fortunate to just the way that the season worked out, we could bring in players from sort of our age group squads and having some of our 17s come up and play, which I think was a really good experience for them, and sort of highlights the difference in standards as well, because like after speaking to a few of them, that they couldn't quite believe the difference in standard from sort of playing age group to then progress to women's. It's actually a really big jump. So yeah, having sort of those younger girls like Esme, Bella Howarth came in as well. They got stuck in, which is sort of all I could have asked them to do. And yeah, I think it was a tough season, but it was a good sort of development. And again, basically being able to see people was pretty good. And to even get those games on in the first place was really, really good. And a sort of just a big thank you to everyone behind the scenes for that to be able to happen. So
yeah, it was really good. And he was a big part of that, as well as the other coaches from the other counties. So thanks to you guys for that. Just an update from the region as well. In August and September, they played an East of England Women's County Championship as well. And that looks really good going forward. They've already had more interest for the teams going forward for next year. That was Bucks, Hearts, Hunts and Norfolk. And they managed to get in a T20 and a 45 over with each team, with Bucks winning the T20 and Hearts winning the 45 over. So congrats to them. Danny, to you, I mean, we're lucky we've got 3 reps in that new Sunrisers side, with Kelly alongside Scarlett Hughes, our wicketkeeper bat, and a new player for Essex, Katie Midwood. How was your first season?
Probably not the way I imagined it, if I'm totally honest, but it's the same for everyone, isn't it? I started this job in May, and it was a very weird first couple of months. We didn't think much about cricket, and then all of a sudden it exploded, and the knowledge that we were going to get out there and play in the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy, I think, ignited everyone in the region, and a big catalyst behind being able to play those London Championship games, so we could see the players and the talent that we had out there as well. So it's it was very different, but I would say all in all it was a really successful year. Look, we all just want to play cricket. We want to create opportunities for people. I think across the pathway, everyone can be so proud of the efforts that they put in to make that happen, both from the end that we sit at the Sunrisers, but also all the way down into clubs, because clubs work so hard to get game opportunities for their members. Leagues didn't necessarily run as they would normally do, so you have people organising friendlies and putting on cricket just to make sure that people were able to get their fix. So I think it was a year that we can all be really proud of, and I think we'll probably sit back in a few years and laugh about it and share stories. But I've definitely taken a lot of lessons from it, and a lot of things that we'll keep doing going forward, because it teaches you that some of the old ways you've been going about things aren't always the best.
Good. And obviously, probably the normal year we would have done a lot more to build the fan base, playing a lot of your games at Chelmsford, which was really good. So just looking to next year, who do you think the players are that some of the fans should be watching for now that you've seen them for a season?
Oh, it's a bit early to tell, but I think we've got 5 fantastic professionals that have signed on, and I think that's the most exciting thing for us, is that they're players that have contributed massively to counties within the region. I will let you all wait for an announcement on Thursday before I give anything away, but it's really exciting to have the opportunity for those girls to train full time. They'll be joined by quite a few other members of the squad who can fit it in around their other commitments, and that's just going to have a huge impact on the quality of our skills, but also I think our confidence and our belief. It's probably no secret we struggled a bit at a level that Kelly said earlier about young players stepping up into the county scene. It's probably very similar to how we found stepping up to this elite level. We were a very inexperienced team compared to the 3 that we played. Certainly, we played in a league in the south that contained every single winner of the KSL over the last 5 years. All 4 winners came from the group that we played in. So we weren't playing against people that were in a similar position to us. So the fact that we competed, the fact that we put them on the back foot on more than one occasion in every game is something that we're really proud of doing. So I think just look out for the Sunrisers next year, and we really hope we'll have crowds in the ground. It was probably the one thing I was most sad about this year, that there weren't people in there to share the moments that these girls got. Someone wasn't there to see Kelly take her first wicket or score runs in the partnerships that she put on in the middle, and you want your family and your loved ones to be there for that. So I think the one thing that I was sad about, we got cricket on and it was amazing to do that, but you really want those people who contributed to a player's journey to share that experience. So I certainly really wish that the first game of the season next year we can have that opportunity for family and friends to share these moments with the players, and hopefully we'll also bring along a few new fans who want to call the Sunrisers a team that they support.
Yeah, we've always been really lucky in not just Essex, the whole region, in having a lot of support from clubs when it comes to watching female cricket. So I'm sure next year we'll have big crowds down at Chelmsford for the Sunrisers games, and Kelly's 20th wicket, hopefully, maybe.
Hopefully.
So to you, Kelly, you mentioned earlier about the 17s coming up to play with the Essex Women. How did you find the jump then going to play for the Sunrisers, and how did you find your first season?
Yeah, to be fair, I probably had a similar experience as to what they found going into a women's setup, because this was my first introduction into being in an elite environment. So it was, to be honest, it was probably the best experience I've ever had. I found sometimes, and I think a lot of cricketers will sort of sometimes relate to this, is that it's such a game of where there's so many highs but so many lows at the same time. So I think I was getting to a point in my own career where I was a bit like, oh, I don't really know what to do. How am I going to get better? What's the next stage for me? Because I was sort of at the top of the county level. So just to take this opportunity forward was so good for me. I remember at the start when I first started going to training for the Sunrisers, I did sort of have that moment where I was a bit like, I don't really know why I'm here. Like I felt a bit not out of place, but it was such a massive jump. So again, being in a team of players who did play in previous competitions like the Super League. So I sort of just tried to take every moment and every experience that I could and just jump at the opportunity, because you don't often get it, and any opportunity that you can get, then I think just jump at it, and that's what I tried to do. So it was a really, really good, although the results weren't as good as what we'd hoped, we really pulled together as a team in quite a short amount of time as well. So it was just every moment of it was really good.
I think it's a really good point that you said about not feel like why am I here. I think from what I heard, there was a few, it's quite a common feeling, and we hear it a lot from some of the girls in the age groups as well. And I think that's a really good example of actually you've been picked, just play and know that you're good enough. And I think that's a good example to all the girls that are watching in whatever they're playing. From your experience, is there anything that you might take forward in your captaincy of Essex?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I mean I definitely don't do at county, and just that I love is, and I know it's really hard at county level, but sort of the preparation that you make for a game. So for example, before each game we would sit down as a big group and talk about the players of who we're playing against, and actually having plans against these players, because realistically, even in the age group stuff, we know exactly who we're going to play against. We've probably played against the same people for the past however many years if you're sort of at the top of that age group. So I think it's something that we can really take forward, and even like for myself as a captain is actually being prepared to go on the field and know exactly all your plans. And even if they don't go to how you expect them to, it doesn't matter. There's always going to be another option that you can do, but also the use of using other players as well. I think sometimes as a captain it can be a little bit lonely, and you sort of have to do everything yourself, the responsibilities on you. So I think, yeah, just utilising as many people as you can, talk to people and get as much knowledge as you can, and yeah, really prepare yourself for that game.
Good advice for captains at any level, I think, to use your players. To both of you, really, what impact do you think the whole Sunrisers programme will have on female cricket as a whole across the region?
Go on, Danny, you can go first.
I'll start. I'll tell you what, I'll talk about it from, I suppose, an umbrella perspective, and Kelly, you can talk about it from a player's perspective, because it probably is a slightly different thought process on that. But I think what Kelly said there has alluded to some of the advantage we're going to get by having a really clear pathway. You're going to have players who understand their game better. The more time we can expose players to pressure, the more time that we can work with players. And the clearer it is as to what they need to do to get to the next level is going to produce players that when they do get that call that says we'd like you to be in an environment such as the Sunrisers senior team, that they don't necessarily have that imposter syndrome. They have that confidence to walk in. And we saw it with a couple of the young girls. Like we saw Grace Scrivens walk in the day before the first game, and she's the youngest member of the squad, but had that real bravado, certainly not in a bad way, but she had a real belief in herself. She had a belief in her game. And I think the more we players and the more opportunities we can get, it's going to bring more training. It's going to bring more playing. We've already been having conversations as a region in creating a more streamlined way of playing regular matches within the county age group structure and things like that. It just makes everything a bit more streamlined and aligned. And we're going to find some real talent across this region. We already have. And our aim is to go out there over the next however many years and develop a homegrown team. We want players from our counties representing Sunrisers. We want to be a successful team, but we want to harness the talent that we already have and the talent pool that's coming through. So for me, it's all about more opportunities and I guess more exposure for players as we can work with them from wherever they are in the pathway.
Yeah, I'll just add on to that is that just definitely sort of the idea of having an actual player pathway. I know when I was growing up playing cricket, you didn't sort of know what the next level was going to be, or not even what it was, but how do you get there? So I think the exposure of having that pathway, making it really clear of what the next step is, I think will be really good for the younger girls, and also to realise that you can actually make a career out of it. I think that's a really big thing. Again, when I was younger, I sort of the only way you could be a professional cricketer was if you played for England. And obviously that's still everyone's probably aspiration to do, but there's other ways of doing it now as well. You don't have to play for England to have a job, pretty much. It can actually come into your everyday life and you can make a job out of it.
Excellent. That's a nice link in there, Kelly, to my next bit. Thank you very much. Speaking of other jobs in cricket, coaching is obviously a big one, and that means with the new setup, there's lots more positions and opportunities to coach. You recently done your level 3. Congratulations. How did you find the course and the assessment process as a whole, I guess?
Yeah, so I was quite fortunate enough to do that, and especially as a female, there's now more female coaches sort of around the country. But yeah, I think doing the whole process, the one thing that sort of stood out is that the whole reflection process. So throughout the whole time, you sort of reflect on all your coaching sessions, what you've done, what you want to do better. And I think sometimes as coaches and as players and as people, we don't really get the time to reflect on what we've done and actually sort of give ourselves credit for what we've achieved. So I think, the main thing taken from that was, just the ability to be able to reflect on everything from a coaching aspect. But it was really good fun. There was loads of workshops. Probably my favourite one was the range hitting, of just doing absolutely random stuff with a hurling stick and everything. So it was a really good sort of opportunity and really good fun.
It's good. It's good. Danny, just from you, for females that might be at clubs that kind of look at this and think, I might like to go to that, take it to the next level, maybe some county coaching and maybe some Sunrisers coaching, what advice would you give them to take that next step?
Well, Nat, you must have read my to-do list, because something that I'm meant to be doing this week is getting the thoughts from my head onto a piece of paper and look at our workforce development plan across the region, because for this structure to work, it's not just about the players, it's about those who support them through it. And this is from those who are the first point of contact in the club all the way through to people that are working with the players in the senior team and potentially beyond, because it's coaching is a skill as well as playing. You've got to take a lot of time to develop it. You've got to expose yourself to challenges. You've got to be willing to take on new risks, new chances, new opportunities. So we're really keen to identify the right the right coaches and the right people within the region who are already on the coaching pathway and have the knowledge and the desire to go further. We want to support them, if that's through mentoring, if that's through some sort of exposure at the next level up. We're here to make sure that we identify the right people. And it's I'm a coach myself, and it's something that I really enjoy doing when I'm not sitting behind the computer. It's great to have that relationship with players, that almost instant sort of gratification when you see somebody achieving something they've been working so hard to do. You don't always get that when you write a 5-year strategy. You've got to wait a little bit longer for it. So I think coaching is a fantastic career path if people want to go down it, and we're going to look to support people through that with the coaches that we have and the workforce that we have in place already.
And we know there's some great coaches out there, male and female, but in the girls' pathway, how important do you think it is to have female coaches?
I think for me, it's all about that role model and somebody that you can relate to. I'm not going to sit here and say that you have to be a female to work in the female game. I actually think, look, how exciting will it be if in the future we can have a female working in the men's game? And there are certainly examples across the board of players and coaches who've worked their way across the two different pathways. So it's having that relationship with people. You do understand females a bit better when you're a female, and we have certain idiosyncrasies and certain traits, I suppose, that it's nice to know that the person who's guiding you does understand. And yeah, it's important to harness the experience that we have. Who better to work with the young players coming through than someone who has played women's cricket and understands that part of the game, the pace-off element, the different angles, the different tactics behind it. So I certainly don't think you have to be a female, but I think it's a really important angle that you want to have within your team, because you want to have a balance, and that's the same within your team, within your coaching staff. You want to have a balance of experiences and knowledge and skills, and that comes from males and females.
Definitely. And speaking of which, somebody with a load of experience, the Sunrisers head coach Trevor Griffin. He was on one of our webinars last season, actually. Obviously, he's had great success with the Western Storm in the KSL, and just this week has won with his team Sydney Thunder in the Women's Big Bash, which is really good. Kelly is a newer coach, I guess, and Danny is a more established coach. What do you love about having Trevor at Sunrisers, and what do you think are there points from him that you would like to take forward in your coaching if you ever get away from the screen, Danny, and when you're working with the Pathway Kelly?
Yeah, so for me, my favourite thing about him is the fact that he has a really good balance, and he tries to keep everything as simple as possible. Even from a player's point of view, is that I think one thing that should be really encouraged is just not to overthink it and just do your best skill. And just one thing that he's really sort of key on is, for example, like just bowl your best ball or play your best shot, and sort of just go back to basics and just try and keep it as simple as possible. And I think, yeah, just in all aspects of coaching as well, there's no point sort of trying to overcomplicate it to get an outcome. Just try and keep it as simple as you can.
I would say that one of the most important jobs I did this year was get Trevor to agree to join us as a new team. Having someone of Trevor's experience and knowledge is fantastic for us. So we've anyone who's watched the Women's Big Bash League over the last month or so would have seen the ability that Trevor has of getting the best out of players. He believes in the players that he works with. And it's not lip service. He genuinely does believe in them, and he invests 110% of himself. He's been in Australia for 8 weeks, but I've not been able to get him off WhatsApp because he still wants to talk to me about the Sunrisers, and I think that's a trait. It's unfortunately it isn't a 9-to-5 job. You've got to understand that there are times when you have to dig in and spend a bit more time and energy in it, and he invests so much into the work that he does. But he's a very calm character. He brings a bit of humour as well, but he's very good to have around. He's good fun, but he has the moments when that he's disappointed in you, which even I've felt over the summer at times. But you'd have to step up after that.
Then it was a really good final, that Big Bash one. I hope everyone watched that, and there's loads of clips about it if you didn't, so catch some of it if you can. Just moving on slightly, I guess, just slightly lower. So this is the pathway for Essex. I would imagine it's pretty similar wherever you are in the region. So our entry levels, we look at women's softball, schools, All Stars Dynamos. We have a few leagues running. That Premier League has grown, so hopefully new teams on there. And we'll look to grow this a little bit more. So that's the 40 over competitive Sunday league. And then at any point you can come in through juniors, can come in through clubs, through county age groups. County women will still continue. And that leads us to the Sunrisers Academy and EPP, which have just about got going, even with the lockdowns and whatnot. Danny, have you got an update on those and kind of what they'll entail moving forward?
Yeah, well, we got 2 sessions in before the lockdown 2.0 kicked in, which when you consider we've got circa 90 players that have been nominated to our two programs from the region, which for me demonstrates the depth of talent that we have in the region. It's very exciting to know that we've got so many players that are performing at their current level, that they're ready to be pushed to the next level. So we didn't get too far into the process, but we're looking to start again this weekend, and we'll maximise the time between now and Christmas in order to select the most balanced group of players that we can do. And it's as I said before, and you asked how the summer's been, it's not how we imagined it would be. We would much rather have had the opportunity to watch players play cricket in the summer been watching them from May through to September and then pull them together into a group. But that couldn't happen this year. So hopefully the girls who have been involved and will be involved over the next week or so will really enjoy the experience. Hopefully they'll take something away from it, because the reality is at academy level, we're probably going to look to work with roughly 14 to 16 players and a similar number of emerging players. So out of that 90, you can do the maths. It's not a huge percentage, but what we have done over lockdown, and our talent managers have worked very hard to pull this together, is remotely work with players, put some sessions like this on where they get to ask questions or listen to some experts. So we've done some work around their strength and conditioning. We've did an educational piece around the nutrition, recovery, hydration, how important that is as an athlete. They got to hear the wise words of Essex's very own Maggie Villiers on one occasion, which I found entertaining, if no one else did. And really for us, our job is just to make sure that we can influence players, and if that we can do that from one session to 100 sessions, hopefully that player will go away with something that will make them slightly better at their skills. And as Kelly said, you can only ever do the best that you can do, and you can keep working as hard as you can to understand that. So yeah, it's exciting. We're hopeful that now we're on the right side of the current social restrictions, and we'll be able to see plenty of cricket over the next few months.
Great stuff. Just before I ask you the next one, we are getting to the end now. So if anyone has got any questions, please either send them to me directly at Essex Cricket, or put them in the chat so we can ask those. Just to finish off, so with that stuff about the academy and EPP, for the girls out there that are aspiring to become part of those things in future, those parts of the pathway, what do you think is the best thing that they can do in their extra time? So obviously they've got their county sessions and their club sessions, but what are those extra bits that they can be doing at home in their own time that might just give them an advantage over others moving forward? Yeah,
for me, I think it's also important you need to have a balance. Like everyone we're talking about here has commitments at school, they have friends, they have social lives, and I also think that play other sports. There's a lot of research out there, so this isn't me just coming up with a theory, that the more sports you play at a young age, the better transferable skills you have when you start to focus at something. So I would certainly encourage girls to play as many sports as they can. Play some invasion sports. It makes you think on your feet. Cricket, it's always had this reputation that you have a lot of time in cricket, but Kelly will tell you don't have much time when you're out in the middle, or when you have to decide where your field is set and what ball you're going to bowl. You have to be able to think, and you have to be able to react to situations. So for me, invasion sports are a really great way. You're working with your team to find solutions to problems, and that ultimately is cricket. You've got to work out a way to get the upper hand over your opposition. So yeah, find a balance where you can keep involved with as many sports as you can for as long as you can, but also a balance where you're able to enjoy your social side of things, and make sure the school is just as equally looked after. Sorry for that last bit. I know no one wants to hear that.
But very important all the same. Okay, I think that kind of wraps that bit up. Thank you very much, guys. We've got a couple of questions, and there's still time for a couple of more if anyone has got them. To Kelly, what was your hardest match, and how do you recover from a bad performance?
Oh, good question. Probably, actually, I'd say this year, in sort of, especially sort of our Essex stuff, is sort of obviously the way that the season panned out, is that obviously everyone wants to perform as best as they can at all times. And for me, when I wasn't scoring runs or taking wickets at county, it sort of gets to you a bit. And I think if anyone knows me, is that sometimes I can be quite an emotional person. So I think it was just sort of actually with that, like, let myself deal with that, like that's fine, but there's nothing that I can do. I can't change anything. So I think it's also just realizing that whatever's happened, that's fine. But then sort of coming back to the ideas of what Trevor says, is that actually just believe in yourself and have that confidence. You're in whichever team you are for a reason. And yeah, just always come back come back to the basics, and just, I think my main thing is just the confidence in yourself, and believing in yourself. That's probably, yeah, my biggest thing.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you, Kelly. Danny, from a coach's point of view, how do you help players in pressure environments recover from these sorts of bad performances that they believe are bad performances?
Yeah, I suppose as Kelly just said there, it's all about confidence and belief, isn't it? So the last thing any coach is ever going to do, or ever should do, is come down on you to make it even harder to pick that back up. And as Kelly said, you don't get given a free pass when you play at that level. You're there for a reason. You're there because your skills deserve it, and this trying to just, like, you can hear the phrase, pump up their tires, or just keep reminding them of what they do well, and hopefully that belief kicks in, and that sort of innate understanding of what their game is what will get them through. So yeah, let's not lie. It's tough, isn't it, when you're not winning, and you want to protect your players as much as possible. You don't want to make them take any blame from outside, so you'll always try and shield them. But it's purely done to make sure that they understand you believe in them, and that they are there. We selected the group of players this year because we believed that they were the best group of players to put on our shirt, and we 100% believed it, and we 100% believe now that they're players we want to work with going forward. And that's the exciting thing about this new structure, is we get the time now to help build that confidence, build that belief, and that resilience in players, because they're going to play a lot more cricket, and you bounce back a lot quicker when you have another game around the corner.
Definitely, yeah. Another one, do you think there'll be even more professional women cricketers in the future?
I'm failing at my job if we haven't. In that the one question that everyone who didn't get a contract this year asked was, how do I get a contract next year? So it's the structure's not going to work if you've only got 5 contracts at the top. And again, we believe in those 5 cricketers. So those 5 cricketers aren't there just because we had to give it to somebody else. We want to work with them long term. So yeah, like ultimately there's 11 people on a team. There's 15, 20 people that contribute to any squad. So if we can get to that, it might take us a few years, then we're going to have the best pathway, because your academy players have to have an aspiration, and your aspiration can't be waiting for somebody to retire at the top or somebody to lose form. So yes, 100% there will be. Look, we're at the very beginning of a journey here, and I would hope that in a few years' time we're sitting back going, we're getting closer to fully professionalising the game at the top level.
Good. And lastly, at what level of the pathway pyramid do you think you need to specialise as a batter, bowler, or all-rounder?
Ooh. For me, I would say, I'm me as an all-rounder, I would say do both as well as you can for as long as you can. Because one, also being an all-rounder, if you have a bad day at one, you can always achieve the other one, hopefully. But I guess, yeah, if you're potentially, like, if you think, or if other people as well are helping you get towards, if you want to be the best batter in the world, then you can focus more time on that. But again, I think it comes back to the balance of just making sure that you're doing everything with a balance. Danny can probably add on to that, because I'm not sure.
No, I think you're spot on, Kelly, in that if you're talented enough to do both skills at an elite level, then you want to do both skills and you want to offer that to your team. I think the thing that I would say is just for young players to be aware that as they work up the pathway, they may find themselves being picked and being exposed in one skill over the other, and that's not downgrading their ability as an all-rounder. But you've seen players that we had on occasions, we had 10 people that the ball could have been thrown to in our side over the summer, and that's never going to happen. If you're playing a 50 over game, you're not going to bowl 10 bowlers, but they're all taking wickets at county level. They're all good bowlers and they all want to bowl, but you're going to find yourself in different teams playing different roles, and usually as you step up, it will be one skill that gets you the eye of the coach at the level above. And yeah, therefore you do have to work on both for as long as you can, because it gives you a better chance to be seen by that coach. And don't be put off by the fact that it might be that you go to the next level based on one skill. And we see it at England level all the time. You're seeing players that are coming in, like they might keep wickets for their county, but they don't keep wicket for their country. They might come in as a bowler, and they would normally bat. Take someone like Maddie Villiers, that she batted at 4 or 5 for us, didn't she, Kel, in the games that she played for, I think, and looked absolutely amazing at this level. But when she plays at international level, she would have to admit, I'm sure, that she's more a bowler than she is a batter there. So that's kind of how an all-rounder skill set would work. You'll have some days where you get opportunities with one, and the pathway will kind of give you opportunities as it comes. So yeah, keep working at both if you can, and as Kelly said, do the best. You've got to work hard to do both, but if you can, you get more opportunities.
I think that's really key, and I think as girls get higher in the pathway and higher in their age groups, it's not a down on them if they're not doing everything, and they'll kind of expect that as they get older they're not going to be bowling every game or batting every game, and that they're starting to kind of hone in a little bit on that. Excellent. I think we've got one more question, but I think you've covered most of it already. What do you do to recover after a tough match, physically and mentally? I think we covered the mental side of it. Just quickly, physically, best ways from recovering from a match?
Physically, I do a lot of mobility stuff, because when you get older, you hurt a lot the next day. But also I try and get as much away from the game as I can. So go for coffee, go for a walk or whatever, and get away from the game.
Excellent. And one last one, what's the best ground you've ever played at?
I'm always going to say Chelmsford Campground. Always my home ground. Always going to say that ground.
Excellent. Danny, to you as well.
Best ground I've played at would be sadly I have to say the Oval, because I didn't quite play long enough to get out on the pitch at Lords when Middlesex I played their first game there 4 or 5 years ago. So probably in terms of the gravity of the ground, then the Oval would be my pick. But there's been some amazing club grounds that you play at, and you play out regularly, and you realise that actually it's not about having stands and infrastructure. It's sometimes just about the feel of it. I really love Bath Cricket Club. I think it's a really nice club. You have people stopping and watching as they walk into town, and that, from a player who you don't always get many people watching your game, it's nice to see people just stopping there and engrossed in the game for 5-10 minutes on their day. So yeah, I think there's certainly grounds that you favour, that you're successful at, but the bigger grounds, you have a bit of awe as you walk out there.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, guys. I think that was really informative and interesting, and a good look at, catch up on the seasons and what's going on in future, and some good tips all round.